Are you desperately trying to figure out how to support an aging family member while taking care of your own kids and managing work responsibilities? This show helps adult children to support aging parents by combining care skills, legal tools, and financial strategy into one show to save your sanity. You're managing somebody's life, all the appointments, the people, the expenses, the legal documents, the activities. How do you keep it all straight? I'm Patrick Cawley. This is Dementia Empowered, a show helping family caregivers navigate dementia care while also navigating the legal and financial challenges so that they can settle into a routine and be confident in the support that they're providing. Keep listening, and you will hear all of the reasons why you need to keep accurate records of everything you're doing for your family member. How a powerful tool will help you manage all of these details as you manage somebody's life, and how this tool can even help you maintain harmony in your family relationships. My guest to discuss all of this is a fellow Pennsylvania attorney, Nancy Meyers. If you work long enough with people who are planning for the future with their legal documents, their legal planning, you start to realize that as important as the foundational legal planning is, people need more than that. And so just as I've branched out into helping people with dementia care coaching, Nancy Meyers went really much further than the foundational legal documents. She created a tool called Advocord. And Advocord is a solution that makes gathering, recording, reporting, and sharing information a breeze. Nancy, thank you not only for creating this solution, because I've tried it out and it's amazing, but for joining me on Dementia Empowered to talk about it.
Well, thank you very much. I'm happy to be a guest.
So let's start by recognizing that even in the United States alone, there are millions of people who are truly unsung heroes. They are guardians or conservators, depending on what their state calls it. They are making decisions under a power of attorney. They are just there supporting their family member whose physical or cognitive limitations require a lot of support. But as soon as you get into this role, you realize it's a lot. I mean, there's people whose contact information you need to keep straight. There's receipts, there are expenses, there's activities. And I don't know if you've seen this, but people end up having scraps of paper all over the place. They're taking a receipt and they're stuffing it into the center console of their car. They just have bits of information all over the place, and it can be maddening on top of the responsibilities themselves to actually be able to then say, this is what I did and exactly when I did it. Is this something that maybe motivated you to create Advocord?
It absolutely is. One of the biggest motivators was a gentleman who was a guardian for a family friend. And every year in advance of his annual report, this is a Pennsylvania client, he would come to my office with a hand truck loaded with boxes. And the boxes contained bank statements, receipts, discharge summaries from medical appointments, anything you could imagine. And he would come in my conference room and we would spend the better part of the day going through these boxes, organizing everything so he could complete that annual report. And I remember thinking, this really isn't why I went to law school. And it's really sad that I have to charge him an hourly rate to do this. But that was what he was comfortable with. And that's how he kept track of everything. And, it's gone from that end to the other folks that just sort of cross their fingers and wing it and don't really worry about keeping things. And those people I really worry about.
Well,
Yeah.
and they don't. So one, the guy with the hand truck and a colleague of ours out in Pittsburgh refers to that exact situation as the BOS, the box of stuff. And he says, this is really often the only way people know. They're so frantically busy looking out for a family member and their needs that they just do the best they can to write things down, throw them in the box. It's not organized in any sensible way, but that's the best they know. But I think what people don't know, and why you're more concerned about the people who aren't throwing anything in the BOS, is people don't understand you can get into some trouble if you don't keep all the records. So talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So, one of the other groups of people that I encountered in my practice were the people that would pay me to set up Excel spreadsheets because they knew they needed to track, but they didn't know what they needed to track. So when I was developing Advocord, I thought, well, wait a second. We need to have the educational component built in because people don't understand the consequences of not doing this or doing it improperly. And, what we can't lose sight of is when we're talking about people in these legal roles, whether it's a court appointed guardian in Pennsylvania or some states call them conservators, but, we'll use guardian as the catch all phrase here, or agents under powers of attorney, they're fiduciaries. And they are held to the same legal standards as professional fiduciaries of, trust officers that have a lot of letters after their name and different certifications and designations. The standard is the same. We realize that we need to teach people that, wait a second, doing this improperly might ultimately result in your removal from the role. It might result in personal liability. If you do something wrong, somebody can be looking at you. You can be left holding the bag here. You can be inadvertently disqualifying your loved one from benefits to which they would have otherwise been entitled to. And you know far more about that than I do with your practice. So there are all these pitfalls, both for the person in the fiduciary role and also the one dependent upon them. So we needed to develop a way to bring awareness to that. Because I think, and I'm going to, sort of, I guess, smear the legal profession a little bit. I think for a lot of years, we sort of focused on the plan and getting the documents in place and didn't really focus on the implementation of that plan. And, this is the logical next step of this is helping people with the implementation of their plan.
I couldn't agree more. And I call it the now what conversation when some time goes by after you get the power of attorney drafted or the will drafted, the healthcare power of attorney, and the person it's not the person you did it for, it's their spouse or their adult child who calls and says, this is what's happening now: dementia, stroke, physical mobility problems. What do we do with the plan? Well, this is where people need counseling and guidance. And, good luck doing that if you just got your legal documents online. I mean, you need counseling about how to use this because the consequences can be pretty steep, as you were just pointing out. And to add a little more to what you referred to with even benefits, I mean, if it's one thing, if you are a court appointed guardian or conservator, now there's reports, right, to a state, and they want to know, what did you do? What are all the decisions you made for this person? And I think you would probably have a better window into this than I, but I've been on some legislative committees talking about this sort of thing in Pennsylvania. I know it's going on elsewhere. There's a heightened scrutiny right now across the country for elder abuse, elder neglect, financial exploitation. So it's serious business. If you are court appointed to be managing the life of another person, you're going to have to show your work. And the benefits part is, well, what if one day they go into skilled nursing care and it costs, where my office is, it costs you $14,000 to $18,000 every month. Well, Medicaid is the safety net, but you have to show everything you've been doing for the last 5 years. So if you can't reproduce all of it, you're going to have, at the very least, financial consequences, big ones. But even worse, you might have to answer to a court. So that's how I see this playing out, the importance of maintaining the information.
Absolutely. Even folks that aren't applying for medical assistance, even if they're private pay, anytime you do that initial application for any sort of care facility, they want to look at, what are your income and expenses? We're a board member of a small skilled nursing facility, and I will tell you, the most important thing they can do is look at what an incoming resident's burn rate is. They need to be able to predict when the money will run out. So, I've had clients that will show up at the social worker's office for that home with the same boxes, the same BOS, and then the social worker has to go through it with them. So it's not only, there's so many instances where having that information is absolutely crucial.
Right. And I'm convinced, just like caregiving, I believe, changes people. It changes their perspective of what's important and what's worth complaining about. I'm willing to bet that over time, someone using Advocord will want to use it for themselves just to keep everything. We're recording this conversation in tax time. I mean, how nice would it be to just have everything at your fingertips? But talk to me about how Advocord works.
So what Advocord does is it is a web-based software platform, and it has a public-facing learning center as well, where I have worked with a woman by the name of Joan Kretschmer, who does all of Pennsylvania's guardianship education. And she and I developed the really hot topic areas, the pitfalls, these are things you need to look out for. So we have that learning center phase of it. But the software tool itself is exactly that. It is a tool to help people store information, keep track of their time. So if you're working under a caregiver agreement and you are allowed to be paid for your work, there's a time tracking tool that will keep all of those records. I spoke to someone in Arizona who's using it for that. She's a court appointed guardian. The court wanted accurate time records. She found us through a Google search and she said, I can keep the time records, print the PDF report, submit it to the court. My payment is approved. It's very simple. So there's that aspect of it. So tracking, storing, you can make unlimited numbers of folders to keep documents. It is mobile responsive. So we are not an app per se. So don't go to the app store and try to find us. What we are is we are web-based. So what that means is on your phone, you can simply bookmark the page. It is fully mobile responsive. So everything you can do on your desktop or tablet, you can do on your phone. A lot of people love that you can utilize the camera on your phone as the scanner. So if you are out, you take your mother out to lunch and you want to record the receipt, you snap a picture of that receipt and it will ask you where do you want to put it. And you put it right in, food and beverage receipt file, whatever you've designated that. So that's one of the uses for it too. The other piece is the sharing of information. So it was very important to me because years ago, I used to do some litigation in this sphere. And I noticed that the common theme was when you had family members fighting each other, the commonality was somebody felt that they were out of the loop, that, the siblings were very happy when one sibling kind of took the lead and did the heavy lifting and did everything. They were happily in the background until something big happened. They had to sell mom's house. And all of a sudden, where did the money go? And they didn't know. I wanted to be able to, build in that transparency. So we have a read only function. So when you are the decision maker, you're the fiduciary, you can then invite people, where appropriate, you're not going to invite everybody, but people who have a vested interest to know the courts can use it for reviewers. So if you're a guardian and you have a court appointed reviewer to look over your shoulder, the reviewer can have access. And all they can do is see what you're doing. They can't see bank account numbers. There's redacted information in it, but they can see the expenses. They can see what activities you're doing, that you really did spend an hour and a half on the phone with the IRS on mom's behalf. So it's building that in. The other thing we're learning is, you see this, it is rare that there is an absolute date where somebody takes over. Now, sometimes there is some catastrophic medical event and, mom or dad went from taking care of things and something happens and now the decision maker has to step in. Most of the time, though, it's pretty gradual. There's always that decision. Should I take over? Does mom really need me involved? And I see with clients, there's sometimes a reluctance to ask the children to become involved because they feel like that will be the end of their knowledge and their involvement in their affairs.
Absolutely.
So we do have people telling us that they are using it to keep their loved one informed. The loved one has read only. So even if that person has dementia, they're not able to change anything. They're not able to alter anything, but they are able to go in and look and see what they have. So there is keeping that involvement, which was something I really didn't think of so much when I designed it, but we're learning from our users that that's how they're using it. And
Oh,
to your
sure.
point,
I think you're probably finding a lot of unintended positive consequences here. And on that last point, and I think I've spoken about this in some other episodes, but it's really pretty common for the person with dementia in particular to be obsessed about going to the bank, about I've got to check and see if I have money. And really part of the care skill is anticipating that need. It's a security need, really. It's confusion. They don't remember that they were just at the bank yesterday. So being able to call that up on your phone or on your iPad or laptop at any given time and just say, "Oh, let me show you this. We have everything organized here. You're doing great." That is golden. I mean, you're going to earn so much security and well-being from that.
Yeah, it is. That was a really happy uh, bit of knowledge to get. And the other thing is we do have a couple of folks that are using it for themselves. It was not designed for that. But, I talked to one gentleman and he said, "Well, I'm worried if I'm hit by a bus tomorrow, how do my kids know what I have?" So I went in and I set up an account for myself, completely off label use, but it works.
Well, and on that note, when you and I spoke a while ago, you mentioned that you noticed somebody had maintained their subscription to Advocord even after the loved one they were caring for had passed away, and it still had benefits. Not, it was not your subscriber keeping their own records. This is a little different, but it's an example of maybe an unintended consequence that's great, where it helped after the person passed away. Can you share that story?
Absolutely. We've been very fortunate that we have had very, very few subscribers cancel their subscription. I mean, that's been really nice. And, because there are so few, I personally reach out and ask for feedback, as to why. And this woman said, "Well, my dad died." Okay. Well, he died in August. Well, she canceled in December. And I said, "You could have done this sooner." She said, "No, no, no. The attorney handling his estate administration wanted me to keep it going because he then could go in and look and pull all the information for the estate administration right off Advocord. It made it so much easier on the probate side." So again, not something I really thought about.
But a lifesaver. And that's another area where whether it's guardianship and conservatorship, usually states will have some level of training on the level of record keeping that is expected of you as a fiduciary. Power of attorney, I think there is no training unless the attorney is counseling them, which I hope they are. But people really don't know what to expect when it comes to administering the estate of a loved one who has passed away. It's an extremely detailed process. And again, Advocord would deliver there because, well, I've kept everything and it's all just organized. And that just makes everything go smoothly, even after the loved one has passed away.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Yeah. But to your point on the guardianship education, what I've found is most states are really good at educating guardians about how to complete the report. They're not very good about how to gather the information needed to complete that report.
Good point.
There's a
Right.
big disconnect there.
Here's how you deliver the information, but what information, how are you organizing it along the way? That's what people are finding out the hard way with the scraps of paper that go into a box. And I would recommend to people that you go to Advocord, which is ADVOCORD.com. And I'll include this in the show notes, but you can set up a free account. You can poke around, take it for a spin and see how it works. But you'll see, even in one section where it's documents, well, you can upload the power of attorney, the healthcare power of attorney, the order from the court that named you as the guardian or conservator. And if you ever have to produce that for a bank, here you go. It's right here on my phone. The healthcare power of attorney for healthcare professionals. That's all there. And then there's another just along the side. You just click, I need to add an expense or I need to add a time record. And it all just goes into one place that's at your fingertips, which, and I guess leading to sort of one final point, I wanted to put an exclamation point on. You touched on this, family harmony. The people who are out of the loop, sure, sometimes it's there are other people who are interested in your family member and their well-being. And sometimes it's just that they just want to be kept in the loop. But sometimes the stress of all of this, having a parent decline in dementia or physically decline, it can be a lot. And then a formerly tight-knit family is suddenly at each other's throats about money, whereas they never really cared about that before. And they want to know, where did mom's money go? That read-only sharing ability just keeps people in the loop. And that can go a long way to keeping resentments at bay, to keeping frustrations at bay. And not to mention, if you're the really stressed out caregiver, now there's some appreciation for everything you've been doing because you've been doing a lot and there's all the evidence to show it. I just think that's really brilliant.
Absolutely. Mhm.
So in one final thing, I think you know that you've really done well is people might be concerned. Well, there's this web-based program that I'm going to load everything up into. This is financial records. This is somebody's health records. What's the security on something like this?
Absolutely. Everything is encrypted. We have the highest security possible at this point. Our development team is fantastic. Our CTO is that was absolutely crucial to us. So that's why I said, like, the read only, there are bits of information that are redacted because of that. You're not sharing everything. So yes, that is absolutely important to us. We can't see what people are putting in there. People will ask me, well, what are people, uploading? All we can tell as a company is where people are spending their time, in what sections. We don't see any of the information that's in there. And that's how it's always going to be.
That should give people a lot of comfort.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about Advocord, ADVOCORD.com. Go to the website, check it out, set up a free account, check it out. And after that, as we have this conversation, the cost of a subscription is nothing. It's something like $4.99 a month for peace of mind and organization. So you don't show up in Nancy's office with a hand truck full of documents or somebody else's office. Good luck sharing that with your family members as well. $4.99 a month for total organization. And I hope that this brings some sense of relief from chaos for a lot of caregivers out there. Of course, you're going into courts, Nancy, across the country. You're going to various users who might benefit from this. So this is spreading all across the United States, I'm sure beyond the United States. But I hope people all over find this tool and use it to restore some sanity to their caregiving. And Nancy, I really appreciate you joining me to talk about Advocord.
Thank you so much. And we certainly appreciate your support and your understanding of the problem. Yeah, that's half our battle is having people understand the problem.
For sure.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Patrick.
I hope this episode has been helpful. If you need guidance specifically with a family member living with dementia, I can teach you how to manage communication, decrease stress, and improve quality of life. There is hope in skilled dementia care. Send an email to info@KeystoneElderLaw.com. Remember, when you learn the tools to support a family member with dementia, you can do this.